Hi there, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the really strange paradox of artificial intelligence. On one hand, it's promising this incredible utopian future, but on the other, it's kind of flooding our lives with digital chaos. So let's break it down.
So, let's set the stage here. We're constantly told that AI is going to solve humanity's biggest problems. We're talking curing diseases, fixing climate change, the whole shebang. But then, what do you actually see every day? Our social media feeds are just drowning in this bizarre, low-quality, and honestly nonsensical soup of content. So how can both of these things be true at the exact same time?
This slide just captures the two extremes perfectly, doesn't it? Over on the left, you've got the grand vision, an AI-assisted robot performing surgery, a super high-stakes field where trust is everything. And on the right, Shrimp Jesus. Yep, you heard me right. These bizarre AI-generated images have completely taken over places like Facebook. It is literally the highest of high-tech meeting the lowest of low effort.
Okay, let's dive into that first side of the story. The really serious, systematic, global effort to make AI something we can actually depend on. This isn't about hype, this is about building a real foundation of trust.
So what do we even mean when we say trustworthy AI? Well, it's not just about an AI that gets the right answer. It's about an AI that's built on a bedrock of ethical principles. This right here is the gold standard that researchers and companies and governments are all aiming for, a system that's transparent, fair, and, at the end of the day, serves human interests. What's really fascinating here is that there's this broad international agreement on what these core principles are. Look at this list. Whether you're looking at guidelines from the EU, the US, or anywhere else, these 7 pillars just keep popping up. It really shows we have a pretty mature understanding of what good AI should look like. The key thing is we know what we should be building.
And this isn't just a bunch of theory either. Let's look at a real-world example. This is Daisy, a diagnostic AI system that's designed to help with triage in a hospital's emergency department. This is where those principles, like robustness, accountability, and human oversight, are absolutely critical. It's designed to cut down waiting times and help doctors. A perfect picture of AI's potential, right?
But, okay, here's the catch. While pretty much everyone agrees on the principles, actually putting them into practice is incredibly difficult. Especially in really regulated fields like healthcare, that gap between knowing what's right and what's actually possible to implement is, well, it's massive. All right, now let's flip the coin. We're going to pivot from that clean, regulated world of trustworthy AI to the messy, chaotic reality of what happens when these tools are just unleashed on the public with basically zero oversight. And that brings us to a new term you've probably been hearing: AI slop. Think of it like digital junk mail, but on a scale we have never seen before. It's all that low-quality, often meaningless stuff that's designed for quantity, not quality, and it is absolutely everywhere. Just take a look at this timeline to see how fast this is all blown up. In just a couple of years, we went from the first AI image generators back in 2022 to people being tricked into attending totally fake events like that disastrous Willie's chocolate experience in 2024. These aren't just funny stories, they're real consequences of this slop tsunami. This quote from The Guardian just sums it up perfectly. It's not just more spam. The sheer volume and the weirdness of AI slop are actually changing what the internet feels like, creating what some people are calling a zombie internet, an online world that looks alive but is just filled with all this lifeless, automated junk. And if you think this is just a social media problem, think again. This slide shows you just how deep the rot goes. Even the supposedly rigorous world of peer-reviewed science is getting hit. A journal actually had to retract a paper because it included an AI-generated image of a rat that was, well, let's just say anatomically creative. It just goes to show you that no sphere is immune to the stuff. Okay, so we've seen the weird and the wacky. But this whole problem goes so much deeper than just bizarre pictures and fake festivals. Now, we're going to get into how this is creating entirely new and very serious security threats. So yeah, this is the moment where the stakes get a whole lot higher. Because the same basic flaws in AI that are churning out all this slop, they're now being exploited by cyber attackers in some really sophisticated ways. So, meet slop squatting. It's a new kind of cyber attack, and it is deviously clever. Here's how it works. AI coding tools will sometimes just make stuff up. They'll hallucinate names for software packages that don't actually exist. Attackers are now watching for these hallucinations, registering those fake names, and then filling them with malware. So the key takeaway,
is that the AI's mistake becomes the attacker's opportunity. A developer asks their AI assistant for help, they get a plausible-looking but totally fake package name, and then they unknowingly install malware directly onto their project. It's basically a supply chain attack that weaponizes the AI's own flaws.
And this is not some rare thing. A huge recent study found that nearly 1 in 5, almost 20% of the software packages recommended by these AI tools were completely made up. That is a massive, systemic vulnerability just sitting there waiting to be exploited.
And now, it's payoff time. We've seen the ideal of trustworthy AI, and we've seen the messy reality of AI slop. But what if the slop is actually creating its own solution? Let's bring these two threads together and look at a pretty fascinating, unintended consequence of all this. Okay, this slide reveals something truly wild. With almost every other big technology in history, computers, the internet, you name it, the more people learned about it, the more they trusted it and used it. But with generative AI, we are seeing the exact opposite. Research is showing that as people become more AI literate, their trust and their willingness to use it actually goes down.
And here's the data to back that up. A study from the Marketing Science Institute found a direct inverse relationship. The people who are most excited about AI are often the ones who understand it the least. It's a completely backward adoption curve. It's crazy. So let's be really clear about what this means. For this new wave of tech, knowledge isn't leading to acceptance. It's leading to skepticism. It seems like the more you understand how these tools actually work, that they're just playing a probability game, not truly understanding anything, the more you see all their flaws and limitations. So this is the self-defeating cycle in action. The slop itself is the lesson. By flooding our world with garbage, the AI industry is accidentally teaching the public how to spot that garbage. This constant exposure is raising everyone's AI literacy, which in turn breeds skepticism and makes people value real, human-made content even more.
And this quote just perfectly captures that final payoff. The more noise the machines make, the more we all crave a clear human voice. In a world that's just drowning in artificiality, authenticity doesn't just survive. It becomes more valuable than it has ever been. It feels like pure gold.
So we're left with this question, right? The slop might be defeating itself, but it still puts the responsibility back on us. As we all get better at spotting the fakes, the real challenge becomes, how do we champion and reward the authentic, the human, and the meaningful? See you next time.